Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I'm here with Joe. How are you, Joe?
I'm all right, Perch. How are you?
Fine. How many times can we say that in one day?
Who
Um,
knows?
so Wonder Woman, she, she's bisexual.
Oh, is she?
I mean, is she? There's this. Okay, we should back up a second here. There's been some articles lately talking about kind of iconic LGBTQIA characters. Wonder Woman being bisexual seems to be something that comes up every now and then gets really quiet. So I'm just curious, like where did this come from, and what is she a bisexual character, or what do you think?
I mean, I get what people are saying in that idea that people have talked about. I think Greg Rucka and other people. There was an article a couple of years ago on CBR, and I believe Rucka in it kind of mentions like, I mean, they're all women. Like, what else are they going to do? So, like, yeah, like you get the notion of that being in there. At the same time, this Paradise Island of just women was created in a comic book in 1941, and despite the life of the creator, these comics were still made for kids,
Yeah.
and there were things implied that were for like adults and stuff like that, and there were some quirky sort of things in there, like she can, I can only make her powerless if I bind her arms and or at the wrists and things like that. Like, yes, these were still comics for kids.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't feel like a Pixar Easter egg kind of thing where they're trying to make sure the adults are served with some inside jokes or comments or things. This, like you mentioned, I mean, there's certainly things that people have alluded to or read into based on the creator and kind of what he was into and other things, and maybe even some of the impetus behind the comic. But at the end of the day, these comics are going out for children.
Yeah,
And I have a hard time. I mean, did people have in their minds when they were creating this comic, like, hey, we got to introduce the concept of bisexuality to kids in the 50s? Was that anybody's goal?
yeah, I don't think so. But part of that too, again with Rucka here, you recently did that video on that like listicle
Mm-hmm.
of the 10 most iconic queer characters, and Wonder Woman was the last one. And in that description, it's said that Wonder Woman is this, her queerness was in question until Greg Rucka came out and said she's definitely bisexual. Greg Rucka, nothing against him at all, not the creator or employee of DC.
No, and not even, I mean, the grand scheme of things had just a brief time on the title. I mean, in
Yeah,
the entire history of the character, he didn't exactly work on the book for, like, he didn't have a decade long run or anywhere close to it.
yeah.
Um, and I guess what's curious here is in this CBR article they talk about Greg Rucka in 2016 wrote the DC Rebirth relaunch of Wonder Woman, which placed Diana's bisexuality front and center in the comic. Did it though?
I read most of that, I think, and I don't really remember that being
I
like
mean,
that important.
the image that they show to kind of reinforce the point is Wonder Woman's having a conversation, and then she gets a kiss on the cheek, and then that's kind of it. They talk about Wonder Woman leaving Paradise Island, and one of her sisters there says it would break my heart if you left. Like, it, I mean, isn't that kind of just? I mean, I don't know. Am I supposed to be reading something into this?
It doesn't. Yeah, I don't get it because it doesn't seem like a lot. It seems like what happens in most of these situations that we're all accustomed to lately of like, look at how brave we are. We had a couple of characters kiss in the background of a Disney movie that we edited out when it went overseas. Like, it feels like that level of care into that. And on top of all of that, DC recently went out of their way to not include Wonder Woman in DC Pride #1.
Yeah, you'd think as one of their most major characters, I think DC recently announced that Wonder Woman was kind of their first superhero in continuity.
Yeah.
You'd think that they'd want to use one of their most important characters in their entire comic line in Pride, if for nothing else than to sell that book.
Yeah, but she was absent. They had a lot of other characters that are far lesser known. That they were all in that book, but not Wonder Woman, which shows that there seems to be a conflict here because DC seems to have no interest in saying one way or another that, where this character falls. Certainly not recently. People like there was that awkward interview with Gal Gadot, who or Gadot, however you say it. I think Gadot, but where she was just like, it didn't come up in the movie. That's not really what this movie's about. But I don't care. It's fine if that's the case. Like, it was very weird.
Well, I mean, the movie kind of went out of its way to talk about her true love with Steve Trevor, at least the sequel that nobody watched. There wasn't a scene in the movie where she also has a dream about scissoring Cheetah.
Yeah. That would have added a little bit to it, but no, it's this is a property that she's been in a lot of cartoons and now movies, and it's had shows in the past and never depicted that way. And I get it. I get that it seems like a logical disconnect in 2021 to be like, she grew up on this island of only women and didn't know what a man like was until she was like well into her adulthood. So like, obviously there's, that level to it, but at the same time, it doesn't need to be that done that way. Like, it's like, she's also a character that doesn't exist. And it's weird that we're people are so obsessed trying to like put a character that's like, Amazonian and all of that into, what we consider, Western, like current Western values. Like, it's very weird that we're so obsessed with this.
Well, it is. And I don't quite get where this exactly came about, because in Rucka's run, which they mention in the article, or no, this is not in Rucka's run. Maybe which run is this? Who knows? But anyway, Hippolyta is shown as being, sleeping with Zeus and having that relationship, but also is shown in a romantic relationship with a woman. And they have that in the comic that is said outright. But for Wonder Woman, we have to kind of hint that her being friendly to another Amazon is proof that she's bisexual. I mean, you'd think that if that was the message they wanted to do, they would have just done it rather than, because the tease is really, really thin here.
Oh yeah, no. If you're going to do it, then do it. And this is another case of not doing it and then like going back and changing history and being like, well, actually, this is what we were trying to. It's not. I hate that stuff. But on top of all of that, you're also looking at this in a way where it's like, yeah, she's this like ancient character that grew up in a warrior society with magic, and she can fly and do all this stuff, but if like who she sleeps with is more interesting,
That's strange, right?
It's a weird thing, and also there is a fluidity to this. There are a lot of people out there, and this is not part of bi erasure. I get that that's an issue, and I'm not advocating for bi erasure, but there are also people out there who consider themselves one thing and then consider themselves another thing. That, like,
Sure.
there's never been something where we've seen a situation where Diana, meets Steve Trevor and is just like, oh, women, forget that. I'm all in on Steve. That it's possible it worked out that way. It's possible that she then met men and that's all she wanted. But part of why that isn't explored in the comics as much is because they're superhero comics, and that's not the point.
Yeah. Well, and like you mentioned before, for the majority of the run, the comic was intended for kids as a primary audience. And most people making comics for kids do not feel the need to answer the question, who's this character fucking?
Yeah. And even if you want to make the argument, like once you get in like the end of the Silver Age into the Bronze, like really the Silver Age, once you get to the late 60s, yeah, there are more high schoolers and college age kids reading these comics. And, there is romance in Wonder Woman's life, but, they're all men. And yes, it was a different time. We can have all these different discussions, but it's done. It's already done. It's out there. It exists. There are up to recently, we've not only seen her with Steve Trevor, we've seen her with Superman. That was a big thing in the New 52. Charles Soule wrote that book, the Superman Wonder Woman book.
Kind of hinted around with Batman at one point.
Yeah. Wonder Woman ended up with Batman's belt after he died in 2 different comics.
Yeah.
Done by different people just a few months apart, which was weird. But
that belt, yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's not really a thing. And, without the company saying it and backing it up and putting her in stuff like DC Pride #1, it's a hard thing to sell. I think this idea just based off of a few creators being like, of course, this character is.
It's puzzling to me because these articles like this one states that writer Greg Rucka famously placed the hero's bisexuality front and center. And like we talked about before, where did he first famously? But I mean, by front and center, do we really mean kind of sort of in the middle toward the back? Because there's nothing in these books that just states the question outright. So then it kind of leads you to one of 2 conclusions. Either people are reading into this because they want to, or the company and the writer included, who has made these big statements, still did not bite the bullet and actually make it clear in the comic. Like the opportunity was there. You mentioned DC is not confirming any of this. In fact, they're doing the opposite. If you wanted to confirm this and stand behind it, you'd put her in Pride. You'd make a single panel where it was stated outright, but instead it's saying, well, because there's the Themyscira, island full of Amazon women, there aren't any men around, they must all be gay. That's a weird, again.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, that's
not only is that weird, but yeah, you'd have her shown that way in the movies. You'd have her show that way in any of the cartoons. She is constantly portrayed in media at this point. But the CBR article from a couple of years ago, Rucka, in discussing this, also says it's supposed to be paradise. You're supposed to be able to live happily. You're supposed to be able, in a context where one can live happily, and a part of what an individual needs for happiness is to have a partner, to have a fulfilling romantic sexual relationship. And the only options are women, but an Amazon doesn't look at another Amazon and say, you're gay. They don't. That concept doesn't exist. So I'm not really sure what's being said here. I mean, first of all, the implication is you can only be happy with a partner, and that's a whole other
that's a weird
can of worms and a weird thing to bring up here. But additionally, you know, when you're saying it's supposed to be paradise and you're supposed to be able to live happily and all that, it's almost like maybe he's unintentionally undermining his own argument, because it's like, you know, she leaves paradise because she can't be happy there in part, right? Because she has a mission, something greater, and then
Yeah.
finds men and mostly gets with men.
Yeah.
So it almost seems like you're talking me out of this when you're saying it like that.
It's an odd message. I mean, and the article would go on to talk about kind of her origins of the comic, and they talk about the comics in the 50s, and they kind of go into. So here's what I don't get. They say this line confuses me. During the paranoia surrounding comics in the 50s, many, and they use air quotes, experts in child psychology feared exposure to comics would turn children into homosexuals, citing both the relationship between Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson and the relationships of the Amazons as proof of homoerotic subtext. So that sentence is discrediting the whole idea, from them saying the experts in child psychology, they talk about paranoia and all this stuff is weird. And yet that same sentence is kind of how they basically validate that, William Marston, intended her always to be bisexual, with the example being he wanted the character to love everyone. He wanted to have Diana be a loving being who showed love and affection to everyone. To love those like and unlike yourself romantically is a form of bisexuality. But romantic wasn't part of the mix there. It was, Diana was a symbol of peace. By loving everyone, it wasn't saying that she was romantically attracted to everyone. Somebody reached there.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of reaches here. And yeah, there was obviously a lot of awkwardness in terms of, dealing with Batman and Robin and things like that, because it's like,
Sure.
we're trying to make this appeal to kids, but it's also kind of weird, and like, having to do that balance. And yeah, I mean, you go back and you read that stuff. Yes, again, there's some weird stuff going on there with bondage, but beyond that, there isn't a lot, especially once you get past William and you get into the other people that took the reins and what DC would do with the character. There isn't a lot of there.
Yeah, and again, I guess I go back to, if you want to make her bisexual, I don't inherently care too much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I care more about retconning all this stuff as being bisexual when there wasn't really evidence that that's the case.
Sure.
Then I care about it in the future. If you want to have her come out and state this, and you want to write a story behind that, I mean, that's DC's business, and they can certainly do it. But nobody has done that.
Yeah.
And so when you get all these articles about this is a bisexual icon, and yet the company is not confirming that, not doing anything about it, not putting them into books, not any of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what we're doing here. This sounds like a fan theory that people keep pushing, but nobody is jumping onto.
Yeah. Most of her existence, she wasn't a human being. She was animated clay. She was a golem, which is, which goes more into like, Judaism and things like that. The idea of, a golem and all of that. So yeah, I mean, that's more of what it is. She's not even a person.
Yeah.
And then later she's like half God.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't get any, I don't get why we're doing this, other than an attempt to kind of claim a character as a bisexual superhero. But if the company themselves are not standing behind it, what are you even doing here? It's
yeah.
I mean, anybody can do anything they want, I suppose, but it's just I don't know. It's a word salad of an article that just gets very confused and seems to take weird leaps with various things, and again, and including Rucka's comments. If you wanted her to be, if it's very clear she's a queer character, just say it. You're the writer. Just put it anywhere in the book. In any form.
Yeah, but it's also, I think Wonder Woman is one of the easiest characters to just come out and say she's queer because of growing up on Paradise Island. But they go out of their way to, futz around with and retcon and change backgrounds of characters to fit that. You can do all that for a character like Tim Drake, but then it's like you got this character who's got like it's a slam dunk. It's super easy to just be like, obviously she's queer, but they won't do that. But instead, they'll dance around and figure things out and mess up relationships and do that to have Tim Drake come out. But a character who's more high profile, who is, something like they can, license out Wonder Woman for significantly more money than Tim Drake. It almost makes you think maybe they don't actually care, and this is all some sort of cynical cash grab.
You think?
I don't know. It makes you think.
It makes you think
a little bit here, a little bit.
They could solve this entire debate in one panel. Like you could have Diana talking about her time in Themyscira, and in one single panel, she's making out with another Amazon woman, and it's like, I had many friends. And then in one panel, you could solve all this.
Yeah.
You'd also just have Diana because they've had comics where queer characters have come out to her, or she's had these characters she's interacted with, and in one word balloon she could say, well, yes, I have been with women and men. The end. Like you could solve this no problem. But
also, why is this so important?
why is it like does it's strange to me that in a world with gods and multiple dimensions and the multiverse and the Justice League and villains and a million other things to worry about, does it matter? It seems like comic creators from the 50s through 2010 did not give a shit. They were more concerned with all these other things they could write stories about.
Yeah, which and again, it's weird because this is the one of the characters that had it baked into the character, and they're like, let's not do that, but let's do all these other things. And I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll do something like that in like a webtoon slice of life Wonder Woman kind of comic. That might work.
Sure, why not?
That seems to fit something like that. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know.
Are they saving it up to have a big coming out issue of Wonder Woman in 2022 that they can charge $10 for?
And then sync it up so she can be on the cover of Pride 2 or something. Yeah.
I mean, is that... I don't... Do you think DC is concerned about pulling the trigger on it because they do license the character out and they're concerned there would be blowback?
I think so. I think that might be part of it. Why wouldn't it be?
Or do you think Jim Lee goes, I don't give a shit about any of this? Money, money, money.
I can't imagine Jim Lee cares one way or the other. Why would he? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
I don't know. This is just a very strange torch people are carrying around. And it also, you kind of hinted on it earlier, like, can't the superheroes be friends and have their crazy origins, and we don't need to worry about who they're attracted to?
Yeah, it's especially in situations like this. If it comes up in the story, that's fine. But why does it matter to the extent that it does? And it's exhausting.
I'll admit something here. Her relationship issues with Steve Trevor were never very interesting to me. Like, if I think about all of Wonder Woman's adventures and the various things she's been up to, the Steve Trevor romance aspect was never a highlight for me. I enjoyed seeing her go up against Darkseid. I enjoyed seeing her fight Cheetah. I enjoyed seeing her deal with the gods. And
yep.
She had lots of good adventures. The times where we dealt with her romantic side at all were some of the most boring stories where I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah. No, I think like Bill Loebs and Eric Luke both had fantastic runs that had almost no romance in them.
Yeah, they just focused on the character doing badass stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Okay. Well, Joe, thank you very much for not clearing up this mystery.
Thank you for helping not clear it up.
Perfect. All right. And now it's up to all of you in the comments to make the comment section a living nightmare for all of us by giving us your theories. Please write in.
I look forward to reading all of them. It's going to be fun.
Same here. Thanks for listening.